Directors dated Tuesday, June 11th.
Okay, the first thing in your packet, under your yellow section, you have campground rules. Josh went through, you have the old set of old rules and the new rules that I have highlighted for you. What, Josh had some concerns with. I'll let Josh talk about it a little bit more because you wanna.
Yeah, basically the way our campground's set up, our spaces are pretty spacious. And what we're running into is people cramming extra people into those spaces, which is fine, they fit. It's extra wear and tear on the bathrooms and the park in general though. Kinda compared with closest campground in KOA up here, their rates are based on 2 people, and every additional person is $5. I don't think we need to go that far, but the way I restructured it here, if we can approve it, is the rates we have it now of 25 and 20 based on 4 people, and $5 extra per person up to 8 on the campsite.
The other big thing there was, do not climb on cliffs and into caves and things like that. There was an incident during Memorial Day weekend
Memorial Day, somebody fell off.
where
the top.
somebody fell off and got injured and stuff. We want a clause there, in there stating that if you're not following these rules, you're gone out of it. Because if you have one doing it, you're gonna have multiple people. Well, if he's
That's
doing it
always
like
been
that,
a rule, is to not climb on there. I just added to it that if you're caught climbing, you're not welcome in the park and you're not getting a refund.
Is there any type of waiver we could have people sign or
well,
maybe?
it's written here, it was written in the old ones too, that there was no climbing, it's at their own risk anyway.
And there's something to prove that they get this notification that way if they do climb and they can't play the,
It's
The
on the
I
sign
didn't know
that
card.
has the stop sign on the way in with campground rules and rates. I just added another sign to it saying stop and read before entering.
okay.
So, that's, just some of the updates, I don't think we have to really have a motion or anything on it, it's just upgrading the rules that,
Because this is part of our rules and regulations, yes, we'll need to add it to the
Okay.
rules and regulations. I think we need a public hearing on this, don't we, to add to the rules and regulations that are, our regular packet of rules and regulations.
I don't think we, as long as it's an existing section of rules already.
I'm saying to change our rules and regulations for anything, whether it be architectural or parks or anything
They can
that's
do that.
within our rules.
All
So
right.
I would ask that it be made public at the next meeting.
Yep.
That's just my
Yeah, it's
suggestion.
just better to CYA
Okay.
there. I agree with that.
I don't see any issues with it, I just wanna cover our bases on that.
Gotcha. All right. Item 2, Jim.
Okay, next one we have resolution for Tabor. I know we had a little discussion about it and, some of the feeling was that it's been on the ballot for the last 2 years. Kind of deboosting Colorado City and it's never went through, it's always been defeated. Mr. Cook brought up the point that he didn't feel that it would be right to go totally debruce, totally, detain with Tabor. I explained that as for any money that we get from county, state, it falls under the Tabor rules and, we need to go at least that far. I sat down and talked with Carolyn, she says, yes, it is a possibility. There is some, cities, districts and stuff that have debruced just for state and federal, or state and local funds that would debruce it. So it was a possibility. I said, well, if you could send me the information. I told her, well, how about federal funds? She says it is not, federal does not follow, Tabor because Tabor is a state law, not a federal law. so we don't have to worry about that. And I know Mr. Cook was concerned in that aspect that with, why don't we have federal in there too within the ballot initiative?
So, Colorado,
Yeah.
And I think also that maybe it kind of failed before because we probably didn't go out and sell it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and is this the
Part of
way
that.
that it appears on the ballot, the way you
yeah,
have it?
that would have to,
Okay, now, so, forgive my stupidity here, but I got no idea what this is saying, and I've read it like 6 or 7 times. So, I would think that one of the reasons why it's defeated is cause they're reading this and they're like, well, I don't know what this is, so no. Cause I don't know about the rest of you, but I certainly ain't gonna vote yes on something I don't know what it is. So,
well, and that's one of the aspects is, we can use our sources and stuff until we put it, announce it that it's going on the ballot. That's why we're not having a,
what does this allow us to do though? If they were to vote yes and allow us to do this, what
okay,
advantage?
say like with the A1 funds that Colorado, or Pueblo wants to give us,
Okay,
okay? Actually, that is a taxable item because it is, even though Pueblo County voters voted yes to give it back to parks and whatever, it's still that loophole that it puts us over our budget, which that money that's in our budget, the next year they can come back and say, okay, you gotta give the taxpayers back $250,000 because Pueblo threw that in your budget.
okay, so the money coming, you're telling me then, if we don't have something like this in place, where the people of Colorado City allow us to keep that money,
Mhm.
then we're gonna have to turn around and give it back, even though it came from an outside
Yeah,
source.
we'd have to give it back to the taxpayers.
Well, that needs to be explained to everybody in Colorado City, and I think it would pass.
And that's why I'm saying, even if we got GOCO grant for $850,000, that would add into our budget, which our budget, being as small as it is, from a tax base wise,
You know,
we'd
now-
almost be making self-sufficient
Yeah.
instead of having tax revenue coming in, property taxes. So, one of the reasons I'm doing this early and trying to get it in here is so that we can talk about it and we can promote it a little bit before we say, okay, you know, we can talk to people and say, well, what do you think about it and why, before we have to put it on the ballot, and then once we put it on the ballot, then all we can do is the pros and the cons of why it's there.
Well, it needs to be explained.
Yeah,
That would be what my suggestion would be, is that it gets
cause you
explained.
cannot
to each
use
person.
any district funds to support this.
Wally, would you mind sharing what the fire protection district did when you had your increase?
Yeah, we went to the voters, I wanna say 3 years ago now, and asked for, a mill levy increase, to benefit fire. And I think we had something on the order of about 40 meetings, throughout the valley. If you could get 3 people together in one place, we would send somebody from the board to talk to them about the pros and cons of that.
And
I could-
basically you went to every club, every civic organization,
Everybody,
Anybody who had a
and
meeting.
everybody that would have us, yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the only way, people in southern
Yeah.
Colorado in particular are gonna vote for something that's gonna increase their taxes.
Well,
But
and this
this
ain't even
isn't
gonna
gonna
increase their
increase
taxes.
it.
And I get that, but I think,
They're thinking it will be.
well, and I don't know what they're thinking it will be, but I do know that when you go out and you talk to people and they have an understanding of it, and they don't
Yeah.
arrive at the
Yes.
ballot box and they go,
Well,
I don't know what this means, so I'm voting no.
Yes, cause people inherently don't trust government, I don't trust government, okay? So if I don't understand what it is, it's gonna get a big no next to it.
Yeah,
Because-
when, you know, my general rule with the ballot is when in doubt, throw it out. And I mean seriously.
Yeah.
And if I don't understand it, why?
Yeah, and I think that
I'll
would.
share one other little caveat, I got my tax bill the year after the mill levy increase had passed, and it's up like $250, and I was just pulling my hair out. And so I said to my lovely bride, would you get last year's tax bill? I wanna know, how come my tax bill's gone up that much? She goes, yeah, it was the mill levy increase. She went around town trying to get everybody to vote for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay,
So-
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you write this, or did the lawyer write it?
Lawyer did.
Okay, we're back to the Fed thing. This is why I'm saying that. I have no problem with this. I would like it to say and/or federal, because here's why. When you read, the lawyer wrote, received from a state, it doesn't say state of Colorado. Now, I understand your argument that it's only for Colorado, but the lawyer didn't even write it that way. So if a state can give us money, then that excludes just it being just Colorado. So I would rather it include federal in there, because if we're going to not say Colorado, it means pretty much other things.
My opinion is that I've read a lot of ballot measures over the years, and they never make sense, and that's why the responsibility on us is so important. We have to be places to answer those questions. Because legalese is not all that understandable for the average, well, not even average, above average individual. And I think that, you know, we pay good money for someone to write it correctly, but then we're still the ones that it actually boils down, make a difference, and it actually gets passed.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we need to keep this very close to the very first thing it says, without creating new tax.
Right.
And that should help drastically
It should.
over the
But I
previous
think-
attempts.
I think the last one's talked about not
The last
raising
one
any
said about
taxes
tax,
too.
cause I remember this ballot issue on the ballot last time, and I know I voted no, because I had no idea what it was meaning.
Cause we didn't do our homework.
I think, Bob,
Well, I wasn't, yeah.
I mean, we
if
didn't.
you reread that paragraph and you take the comma out after from a state,
I know,
and it says state agency,
I know that.
the clarification would be better.
I talked to a consultant, I was at her class, she goes around and she does this, helps governments with this ballot issue and how to be successful. And she said the most important thing is strong community engagement. The earlier the better. She said they normally started a year before, and just being at every public function they can be at to explain it. She said that was the most successful approach
And this would be on the ballot, not this year, but next year, correct?
this year.
This would be this
November.
year, cause you have a general election.
Well, I think it's a little bit, I was gonna say, I think we're a little bit late on this.
No,
No.
because actually it has to be turned in the end of August. You have to have this by the beginning of August, end of July, the resolutions for it. That's why I'm doing it now, to get it in place, so that way, when July comes around, the last meeting in July, we can say, yes, we passed this resolution. And that's why I also have, the next one on there is road sales tax. Because I know we discussed that earlier. Do we want to look into that as being a 1 or 2 cent sales tax in the metropolitan district to help with our roads?
Why don't we just go ahead and move into that?
And James has volunteered to take our case to every golf tournament.
Well, see, and that's the thing is we can't hold a forum here to talk about it.
Right.
You have to go to the library, you have to go to different places. I can't even do it at the golf course. I can talk to people there about it, if they ask me, and give them the pros and cons, but I cannot, since it is part of the metro district, it's one of
Well,
those.
it can't be done on metro property?
No.
Has to be done outside.
Yeah. So-
All right, sir, road sales tax.
So that's one of the things, I didn't know whether you wanted me to go forward and look at that too, since we're putting one on the ballot. Do we wanna put 2, cause it's gonna cost us the same to do it?
Let's look. Let's look.
Yeah, let's let's look at it.
Okay, so, our recommendation, do you want 1 cent, 2 cent? How do
Tell
you
me
want it?
about it. What'd you find out?
That's like,
How much money are you estimating right now, or have you found this?
I haven't found out. I haven't found out exactly how much 1 cent would derive, but I can do that. It's probably 1 cent would probably derive maybe 20,000.
And being a special district, we can use that towards roads
Yes.
Only.
only. And that would free up some of the money that we're currently using for roads for other things, because it's fungible.
Yeah, I
correct?
mean, if you knew what you were getting on an annual basis through that 1%, you could, through your budget meetings, you could adjust the funds you're putting towards roads to other things, knowing that you have a different, revenue source for that department. Absolutely.
Because we can't have a general sales tax, I would bump it a little more than the 1, because your average city sales tax is 3 to 5.
Yeah, no, actually, your average right now is about 7 to 8, because usually you have your federal, which is.
Yeah, he means just the city by itself.
The city by itself is usually 3.
3 to 5 is
Yeah.
the average for a city.
Yeah, and your county's another 3 to 5.
County's 1, county's 1, state is 3.9. So if you got a 7.9 in Pueblo, you say,
Other thoughts about that? And also
So-
drafting
Well, $20,000 a year would definitely, or even 40,000 if we went with the 2%, but we would have to sell it. I would want to see myself, if I was gonna support this, I would want to see some requirements that this isn't just used for, I wanna see a long-term plan connected to it for getting some of these streets paved. Stuff like that. If we're gonna ask them for some money, then I wanna see some improvements put in as long-term plan.
I know City of Walsenburg, which, they're probably about a quarter of what we are. 1 cent down there drives probably about
There's a lot of-
$1.2 million a year
There's a lot of other
into a road
improvements you guys are
But they don't have near I mean, they got a
Yeah.
whole lot more tax base than we have.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if we got over 5,000. I really would.
No,
That's why I've asked.
because you have Ace Hardware and you have Golf Course, you
And
have.
you got Valley Market,
Rock
you
Valley
got.
Market, all those places,
I don't have-
once that.
You got the rest
It's
of
gonna be
it.
minimal, because, most of the stuff they sell is not taxable. So,
And
you know,
then,
the,
About half, probably about 3/4 of stuff.
But even your loaf and jugs and
Your loaf and jug.
things like that,
So Tabor is good for, if we pass that, it'd be for 1 year, right?
No, it'd be for, from there on.
Oh, okay, I'm thinking, I'm just sitting here thinking, do we want to cloud the issue? I mean, we gotta get Tabor taken care of. I mean, that's the main, I mean, the road thing, maybe we gotta do the road thing next spring on a different ballot or something, so we don't have one.
Put a
well,
poison pill in and
Or,
kind of.
well, maybe, or the other thing, if sacrificial lamb will vote yes on one, no on the other, might work, I mean, I don't know. But I'm just thinking, if we give them too much information all at once, this is an increase, and this
Yeah,
one's to save us money.
You know, as just a citizen out there and the people that I talk to, I don't think you'll get sales tax and a Tabor at the same time.
Well, and that's what I'm
I
looking
just
at,
don't think
and that's
you
why
will.
I
I
brought
think
it
you're probably right.
both ways. And that's why I wanted to have the boards
do
in a
you have an
discussion
estimate on the cost
on the cost of what it would be
to
on
put
the,
something on the ballot?
Ballot.
I believe it was
Like,
3,500.
If we're the only ballot out there, it's like 5,000. If there's another ballot issue and this is a general election, it's more like 2,500.
What did
Like
it
the
cost
spring
last
one,
year?
3,500 I thought was last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
cause it was a bigger,
Yeah,
but like if the spring ballot, whenever we do the board election, which we'll have to do, cause next year's an even year. then it's more like 5,000 if it's just us on that ballot. I don't know if our fire has part of that.
So we can
ballot
put that
this
on
year.
there too, couldn't we? Yeah.
Yes, cause you will have a
And
swing
that's what I'm
election.
saying, and you can put a limitation on it too, as for the next 5 years, we'd like to, so that you can go in, what you're saying. I wanna see a plan for 5 years, what you're gonna do with that money
Well-
first, before we go any further, or however you wanna work it. I figured it was just a topic for discussion now, as to, since
Yeah.
we're dealing with it, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I tend to go along with Harry's line of thinking. I think two would just.
Convolute it.
But also it might work the opposite way, the two might get you the vote on the other one. We're not gonna give you the tax increase, but we'll let you keep the tax money. Both, could go both ways.
Gives us time to think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It gives us time.
That's what I'm saying, we can look at it, we can draw one up or whatever.
Cause I myself, anytime government comes around with their hands out,
Well, and I could put it,
No.
it would be, 100% comprehensive in 100% detail, but I could give you a pretty good 5-year plan on what the district's needs are for the roads department versus, outside that 5-year, okay, what you could put that, like a 5-year plan and then a 10-year plan.
yeah, cause if we could put a plan together and show people in the community, we're not that large of a community, but if we could start showing people, hey, we can start doing this to improve the community. Every year we can do this much, okay, to start improving things around here, then I think maybe people would be on board.
Didn't Pueblo West pass the sales tax for
They
roads?
did, I
And I think
believe.
Their approach was they just opened up their books on the roads, on how much money they need to maintain the roads, and their financials showed that they were considerably short. And the public was not aware of that, so if you want your road maintained, you'll see that you'll have to pay a tax to keep it the way it is.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
July 5th.
July 5th, being Friday, it was kind of brought to my attention that we have families that go see fireworks late at night. Wondering if we wanted to close on that day or run on a skeleton crew, because I know we're gonna have people that wanna take it off.
We'll still have on-call regardless.
We'll have all of that, but
Don't you only run half days on Fridays to begin with?
pretty much usually from 7:30 until
One.
1
If
o'clock.
operations allow, yeah.
I don't really see any change either.
Okay, so I've just brought it up to the board as, do you mind if we closed or not, or do you
On
want to?
July 5th is a Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
Yvonne's gotta go out of town is the reason this is
Oh,
on.
Wow.
No, it was just something looking at it, at the employees wise, if they wanna take their, vacation day on that day. A lot of times what we end up doing is we have only one person in that department that takes a vacation day at that time. So like if, with the girls, if Callie takes it, that leaves Karen and Yvonne here to keep the place open. Whereas if I have Karen wants a day off too, now it just leaves Yvonne here. Do we want to, have that situation, or how do we wanna work it?
We're already off the 4th, right?
We're off the board for.
I mean, I don't know, a day's not gonna hurt us. I don't think so. In fact, they work pretty darn hard. I wouldn't have a problem with just,
You gonna shut down the golf course and keep?
no. You have people working that are on call to work. You have people there all the time. I just think you just don't.
Cause it's gonna be their time they're gonna use,
Yeah.
annual leave or whatever.
Yeah.
It isn't gonna be us paying for their day off.
It's different.
It's just a day off that if they wanna use their annual day on that day. And, cause like I said, if, in the office here, we usually have 2 people here. I'll be here and probably Yvonne will be here anyway, but it don't matter. It's up to you.
Non-essential personnel.
I actually don't
I
see a
hate that
problem
term.
with it, but that's.
I don't either.
I'm not
And
essential.
it's best to kind of get it out here earlier, instead of waiting until the last week and say, hey, put a sign on the board, Metro will be closed the 4th and 5th, you know.
Well, I think we've been getting a lot accomplished, everybody's been working, putting in a lot of hours. I think everybody's been doing a great job as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a problem at all.
If we know ahead of time, I could put the notice on the bill that will be closed the 4th and 5th, and also let the phone company know, so they set our phones to be, on holiday that day, just so we know ahead of time.
Okay, the next is leaf loan. When we ended up leasing the, grader, we had, Deb, the consultant and stuff, look at our loan with Leaf. There was some concern with it. We've been arguing with Leaf for probably 2 months now about their interest rate and that we wanna refinance and all of this kind of stuff. And we were gonna pay it off if we refinanced our, bonds. So it came down to it. I ended up getting Carolyn even involved with it and sending a notice to them that this was the agreement and we're at that point that it came out that they were out of line because they did not recognize Colorado law for the lease that they did. So they had to go back to corporate, Leaf did, and they're going to come out with a new, which it will actually save us $2,000 a month. And we'll still have the same amount of payments, the 20% that we have, and it's gonna save us.
And it
So,
should have went to their government side of loans, not just their regular loans,
for equipment,
which is lower.
so that's, later
They
on
gonna
in
cover our
that,
legal
I'd like to add that.
They gonna cover our legal fees?
Yeah.
Are they really?
Well, no, it ain't gonna, our
I
legal.
mean, are they going to cover our legal
No,
fees?
no.
Oh, okay,
No.
okay.
No,
Just
we're
ask.
saving
There was
so
a
much
limit
money
to it.
that,
Yeah.
our legal fees are probably right now less than 1,000, and we're gonna save probably, I don't know,
I'm just greedy, Nancy.
40,000.
That's all, I just asked.
So when we get into the regular meeting, I like to put that under old business, Leaf, that, amend contract to reduce price would be what I'd recommend
Okay.
for the board.
All right. That's the 5 items on the study session. We will close that and we go straight to our regular meeting. Call that to order. Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for those of you who would like, join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. The minutes reflect 4 of the 5 board members are present. If I could have an approval of the agenda with the one change, that the amendment of the leaf loan be added to old business. Or any other changes that someone had?
We also probably will need to have something under new business as direction from executive session.
Oh, okay. So with those 2 changes, new business, direction from the executive session, old business, amendment of the leaf loan. If I could have a motion to that effect, please.
I will make a motion to that effect, exactly the way you stated it.
It has been moved, could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor of approving the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes, we are approving minutes for both the study work session of May 28th as well as the regular meeting of May 28th.
Mr. Chairman, due to our statement made in each minutes, I move to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve the 2 minutes. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Bills payable?
You have in there, standpipe, I know Donnie recalibrated it after our last meeting.
So, the standby calibration, was 100% correct. I believe the discrepancy, and it's easily seen from here, this month's tally is a little lower. Last month's a little higher. I think it was a matter of the end of the month versus when the quarters were collected. So Gowan, if you were to average the 2 months together,
There.
then you're gonna see the calibration is on.
We
As-
have,
Go ahead.
we have credit cards from every day. We only get the gallons and the coins Mondays and Fridays. So they can flop over into the new month when actually they might have been paid the month before or vice versa.
And credit cards also were running a day, maybe 2 days
I
behind.
think they're
No,
two.
actually, we don't run this report till they bring us all the credit card reports in.
Until they correct
So
the
they've
credit
changed
cards.
their system, so it's a little different, but the year total, we're running pretty good.
Is there, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, go ahead.
Is there a possibility of setting a specific day of the month of where we know everything's closed, so that we're not trying to say, yeah, this is because of that? Is there a possibility of picking a day that everything closes on that day? Similar to if I wanna balance my, taxes, I have to do it on a specific day of the month, or I do my filings.
Yes and no.
Because,
I mean, but if you say do it on the first, we have readings from the first, that's
I'm
great, till
just
the
saying,
first
could
is on
you-
the Sunday.
But, I agree, but what I'm saying is, could you put in place some type of system where you can hold or make sure everything's in before the
So-
actual closing? Is that a possibility?
because-
That's all I'm asking.
Because
Well, I
your
can't,
calendar, the way it is, usually you'll end up with the 31st, the 30th, the 29th,
But-
28th.
But even if it was the 16th or something, I'm not
Um,
saying it necessarily.
It's still gonna
has to be the
rotate,
first,
Well, but-
it's still gonna rotate in a weekend.
if I can say this is the day we picked up quarters, this is the day I'll go through credit cards, it's just not necessarily gonna be June.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what you wanted? Okay.
It's a good explanation.
Okay. Any other questions on the financial report?
That's just a standpoint, I like to go through, the financials.
It's all in the same
Yeah, such a
section.
big
So, James, we've got another $812 legal fees for the Rye sewer.
Yes.
Pretty soon we should own Rye.
We're at that point right now, Donnie Lewis is coming down.
Yeah, I don't know, Gary, has Dave told you what day he's coming this?
Not this week.
Not this week, possibly next week, he'll come up and do our annual visit with us. He's also the independent for them that they chose with their engineer to re-verify calibration. So, at that point, our conversations with the town of Rye were they were gonna get through 2 calibrations, verify data,
So this will be
and
the
then
second.
this would be the second one. At that point, in my mind, they should be looking at purchasing it, making it a permanent install, which would mean integrating in the solar panels, making it powered 100% and coming online with them. And we just need to compare data, and that's where JVA engineering would come in. They'll run the data. I think we're probably still 30 days out from that. I can punch down a better timeline with them on what JVA is telling them on the engineering side of what they need.
We had an extension up until August, I believe it's 10th with the courts.
Yep.
So from now to August 10th, until we sign the final documents stating that, we're in agreement with what they've done, they transferred the line over and all of that, that's when it will be finally done.
And the legal fees were these here most recent ones?
Mr. Chairman, I know you mentioned about $800 on that. What I'm worried about is the $6,000 right here, 5,944. What's that about? Legal fees.
I think it's tied to the cistern piece, it's all that, it's all the resolutions we've been looking at,
Yeah.
Tabor, water, that's everything all lumped together.
Also,
FAMPRES.
also with this other issue that we're dealing with in executive, there's a lot of things that we put on her plate in the last.
The 800 is just the Rice sewer piece, correct? Yvonne?
The rice sewer piece was
Yeah.
800. What, I thought everything was done on that as far as the contracts and stuff. So we still got lawyers involved?
The lawyer, the independent lawyers that took us to trial, that's the ones that are the 800.
That are still involved
That
in
was
this?
not her.
Oh, that, I think that answered what you were talking about.
No, I understand.
If you
what
want,
you're saying
we'll break
there.
it down.
But I don't see it right off the top of my head. I got these a bit late. I think we need to talk about that. But, somewhere else in here was another lawyer fee also. How many lawyers are we using?
So we have a water attorney, and then general legal counsel. And then,
Wellborn.
I'm sorry?
Wellborn is the bride.
You have Rosa Whittemire is Carolyn.
Wellborn's like,
Administration was 3,000. That was,
I wonder how much a lawyer costs just to put on paper.
that's,
Have more care.
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that as a retainer of
As a
so much a
retainer,
month.
and then so much a month, and just,
Yeah,
that way they cover everything.
Instead of $300 an hour.
yeah,
Yeah, just, I think, that might be something we ought to look into.
yeah.
Well, I think she made a lot of her money, or we made our money back on that fan press.
That was
loan.
another part of it too. is
How,
that-
let me just ask this question. I don't see what I'm looking for here, but
You're looking at page 7.
where do we stand on the amount we budgeted for legal fees? I think that's a better question right now.
I think we were at budget, it depends, so admin, I think we were at budget. We might be below now because I need to get the architectural money out and apply it to our legal fees in admin. And I think we were either at or below budget on water sewer
Are we at or below for the time of year or for the entire year?
for the time of year.
So we've still got money budgeted for legal fees going forward?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions on the bills? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
Mr. Chairman, I move to, pay the bills.
A motion to pay the bills, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Operational report.
Okay, operational report, in your books as requested. You have a Parks and Rec operational report. Full season began May 31st and is a new adventure every day. We have pumps, boilers, issues, electrical problems. We are working through the problems. And on a bright note, we did pass our health department inspection with flying colors. Mowing operations are handful this year. The mowers seem to have a new problem each day, and we are doing our best to work through these issues as well. The campground is extremely busy, and the phone is ringing constantly for reservations. Baseball will run every Saturday in June, and we have a great turnout for participants. Volleyball will begin this month at the park. Security cameras have been installed and have proven beneficial. Even with all the moisture we have had, we still have some dry spots on the field. We will be working to install the new irrigation heads this week. I know I seen Josh and his crew out there today digging up heads and putting new heads in on the baseball field. I know that when Josh started up the boiler, you had a problem with it at the pool. Then went to the kiddie pool boiler, so he's been pulling his hair out. If you look at Holly Dot, the maintenance side, course status, fairways, range tees, approaches, fertilized May 23rd, 0.9 pound nitrogen, 1,000 applied. Tees fertilized June 4th, same. Green sprayed, fertilized May 14th, May 30th. Collar sprayed June 3rd. Long-term wetting agent used to prevent localized dry spots that historically show up. Baseball fields fertilized June 4th with the help. Back 9 bunkers cleaned, free from weeds. Back 9 greens and tees, irrigation heads cleaned. I know Mark came to me yesterday, and the water system on the front side is not in that good a shape, but he's put a lot of work into it to get it going. Hopefully we could work through some of the hiccups with it and get it maybe to last for a couple more years until we can decide what we wanna do with it. Irrigation back 9, total of 53 man hours for maintenance since March 28th. Startup, 2 brakes, audit, handheld and adjustable. What do you mean by that, Mark? 2 brakes, 2 water brakes. The audit was what?
Just making sure everything is turning on and rotating.
Okay. Head levels and adjusted. Okay, front 9, total of 234 man hours of maintenance since March 28th. Startup, 5 brakes, multiple bottom valve replacement, middle electric hydro converter work, multiple satellite work, wildcat reduction, new 1/4 inch line installation in pump house, recharge, system drain and recharge. Like I said, that's why you have a lot of the man hours is beating that over the system. It's taken a lot more to keep it up and going and running, so, but he's doing a great job. Of course, looks excellent. Everybody that I've talked to, they're very happy with it, love it. I know, what is it, next Tuesday?
State Patrol.
Tuesday, they have a state patrol tournament. This weekend, you have tournaments going on?
Yeah, Tournament Friday.
Tournament Friday?
Friday, and that's.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and most likely the people that will play the Tuesday tournament, they'll come in Monday
Right there,
and
practice,
play.
yeah. There's a lot of practice.
So, as for the golf shop on the backside, activities report, to date, we have 75 members. Revenue's up 21% from last year on membership. Last year was 40,000, or this year's 40,000, last year's was 35,000, or 32,000. Had 800 rounds less this year so far due to weather, and 17 less golfing days compared to 2018. But revenue is basically the same. It's showing that in rounds you had 3,824 last year through May. This year you have 3,032 through May, which you've had a wetter season. Total revenue, if you look at it, you're still at 123,599. There's a difference of probably about
393.
We have a lot of tournaments in June. I know within the last 2 weekends, the course has been packed. Being over there, have 30 kids in a junior program. Friends of Holly Dot have helped with projects, materials to keep our costs down. I'd like to thank you for what the board did with the Friends of Holly Dot. I believe they were able to make about $7,000 for their fund for Friends of Holly Dot. For that one tournament.
Very good.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes.
Just wanted to let you guys know, I got 2 customers that come into my shop, both of which are golfers, and they both told me that the golf course has never looked as good.
It's true.
One of them has been golfing for probably about 20 years in this community. So, you guys are doing great. Thank you. You're welcome.
As for plants, our water plant has been
Hi.
a nightmare for the last month. We've
We're
had
making
days-
some headway, I think, in
Yeah.
certain avenues. So starting with the plants, we've got Siemens scheduled, for next week, to look at, finalizing our Profibus, and connector upgrades. We're looking at a Wi-Fi, solution, long-term solution. Trying to get some pricing associated with that where we don't have some of these issues, down the line. Today, guys were out trying to help Gary, be able to be a little more efficient pumping out of those plants. We've run into a couple, just plumbing, issues with that. That should be resolved tomorrow morning. Once I get the last couple parts with that. There's a 40 horse pump replacing a 20 horse pump. So we'll be able to move some water a little faster, or a lot faster, to help bounce between. We've been working on PRB stations, as you guys have seen through some of the bills and stuff like that. You see that a notation there. What we're doing there is bringing back our pressure zones, bringing those back online and making sure that they are 100%. We've seen a very steep decline in our water breaks, let's say in the last 2 to 3 years as we've been working through these pressure zones. We're just trying to continue that. I've got about 2 stations left to finalize. They're the ones that would have been they would have been the most recently maintenanced. So those kind of got pushed to the bottom of the list. We took care of the oldest ones first. We're still waiting to help out on some of the sampling points. We have 1 sampling station ready to go in the ground. We're waiting on the state's approval for change of venue, so to speak, of moving a sampling. I wish I could tell you that would be a month from now. I wish I could tell you that could be 6 months from now, but their reputation is they're not on any time schedule, and they're certainly not gonna move up for any of our reasons. So we're at their they, when we can get that approval, we can get those in. That'll help with the TTHMs, HAA5 issues that we've had in the past. We're showing no signs at this point of having any additional issues with that, but this is a much better way for us to streamline that sampling. I've got some lagoon maintenance down at the sewer plant that we've had on the schedule. Jim and I have fought over when and how and when I can do that. We have a track hoe coming Thursday morning. I got bumped from this morning to Thursday morning on their end, not ours. So we're going to work through that, dredge that lagoon. That is going to be something that will appease the state in our sanitary survey people to come out and do that walkthrough. It's something that's been needed to be done for a long time. We're also going to upgrade a portion of that to where basically our lagoons is our emergency reserve. If we have a flooding issue or we have to run the plant down, we have a way to move that water out and then bring it back. And the piece that's been missing since the plant was put in was the means to bring that water back. Long story short, piece of pipe and a collection basin, pump's already there. So we're gonna, 2 birds, 1 stone with that track over here, we're gonna create that point. Parking lots at the lake, we're gonna help out Josh a little bit with moving some gravel around. I know that's been a public, I haven't heard anything yet, but it bugs me seeing that. So we've already started hauling some gravel to there. We're gonna bring the backhoe in and in conjunction with the blade and get them parking lots back up to par for the public to be able to get in and out of there without having to dredge through water and mud. The raw water fire hydrant is also on schedule. I have it. It's just a matter of we've been dealing with so many other things. I would like to get it on the schedule after meters. The fire hydrant down there is old, antiquated, bent, wore out. We have a new one we're gonna put in there and make that more accessible. We also have a few raw water clients that I've taken phone calls. I believe Karen has one online already, and I believe Jim has talked to another that are going to be using that a little more frequently, and this is going to make their life a little easier as well, and will also offset the costs involved with putting a new hydrant in there. We're looking at kind of a housing boom, as you all know, new construction. I believe at the rate we're at right now, if we continue down the path, we're gonna exceed the revenue that we budgeted for taps, by August. But that could change, we could all of a sudden, somebody doesn't wanna build, but we're on pace to exceed that by the end of the year without any issues. In conjunction with that, we're also integrating into all new construction pieces, the new meters that we were talking about, that once we get this refinancing piece and stuff, and we buy the whole lot, but I'm no longer putting the old style new meters in, we're putting those new ones into operation. So it's a drop in the bucket at this point, but there's no reason to go back and do the work twice. We did have one water break
Spring,
on Sandy Creek, I forget which day it was.
Wednesday.
Yes, Wednesday, I believe, because it was all a blur, but, that was taken care of. We're looking at, a water line that was put in on a rock shelf, and then we had a crack. So we got that resolved and repaired and back up. Hopefully, we don't see any more of those. It's one water break in the last 4 months.
We're still waiting on the motor for our third basin, or our first basin.
Yeah,
The sewer
June
plant is-
June 21st is the ship date. I'm emailing him back and forth weekly to get that. Our newly acquired VACCON truck has proven very useful. Up until Monday, we had some mechanical issues with it. I've had Caterpillar and our mobile mechanic in looking at it, and we've had that resolved at this point. I'm also looking at, the company that had it prior to us worked high on maintenance. So I had the VACCON rep come down, go through the truck, give me a list of items that it's missing or is in disrepair, and we're looking at pricing that to put that truck into a better state than it is. But as of right now, it operates on -1 valve that I have on hand and just need to put it in. Operates as advertised and the price is right. So
Free.
we got the truck for free.
Correct, price is always correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak on this.
All right.
I can't remember the gentleman's name, I believe it's Mark. Mr. Director, I see something here that I think it's just a matter of pointing two people together. In Parks and Rec, Josh has problems with dry spots, I'm assuming it's probably hard pan or something like that. But, Mark here has, applied this long-term wetting agent. I think he could help out in the other department of correcting the issue. Could you ask them to kind of get together and see if they can work that issue out?
I think they have, haven't you?
I've never went down there and sprayed.
Okay.
We've done some
I
other
see
things, aeration and some
They've
stuff.
done
Yep.
something to fix theirs, I'm just saying,
Mhm.
in the other department, maybe they're both paid from the same fund.
We'll get them all together and we'll come up with
We'll
it.
use all the resources we
Yes.
have.
Yeah,
It's kind of been on the back burner because Mother Nature's been fortunate, and now that Mother Nature is starting to back off.
I understand, but
Yep.
even when you have wet, like he's pointed out in his report, and you have a hard spot.
Yep.
Little hard pan can sometimes be cured with chemical, not always.
Yeah, or aeration.
Yeah.
One of the other things in the report, I'd like to thank RTC for, we had a comms situation that happened, and we're still catching it little intermittent, but it was like every other hour that it was causing. It went down, we're able to find the problem and hopefully fixed it, but.
I don't think they came anywhere near it, but it hasn't happened lately.
Yeah, so it's mellowed out our situation, so RTC, they, after making the call, they were there the next morning, which everybody's mad at me because I didn't know they were gonna be there the next morning. I thought they could be there Monday morning, but hey, we got it up and running.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other comments? All right, read the statement of code, conduct and demeanor. In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute the forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson, or upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority. Citizens input tonight, we have one speaker, Cindy,
Yep. You want me up?
if you don't mind. Not that you're not tall enough to see you, but.
I can use you. I can see over this. I'm Cindy Schaefer. I have a couple things. Am I limited?
If I toss the gavel at you.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm done. I have two things that are kind of concerning, regarding meter reading. May 29th, when the guys were going around reading meters, we observed two of them riding around on the tailgate, which to me is a workers' compensation claim waiting to happen. I did contact Bob Cook and express my concern on it. He said, please bring it forward, so I'm bringing it forward.
Okay.
My other question is, why is it we now have 3 people having to do the meter reading when in the past it was always 2? I don't know the reason, but maybe somebody could tell me.
Absolutely.
You want to tell me?
So, at this point in time, we've, I've spoken to, regarding the May 29th incident with the tailgate piece. I've, reiterated to the people out there that is no longer tolerated. So they've been reprimanded, so to speak. The reason for 3 people is different areas require different needs. So say Applewood or any of the streets that we have where we have meters running down both sides of the street, one person drives a truck, one guy down the street, and it's the most efficient way to do it. That being said, you may go from a neighborhood of that such and go up and help some guys in another area. There shouldn't be a time where, you know, other than trying to help somebody out finish up the day or finish up a book, to, you know, do that. But three people in a truck is the most efficient for, I would say, 80%. Unit 29, which is kind of the western boundary and southwest, kind of up in your area, that's typically a 2-person deal. But if they may have come from an area, or just came from an area where they have 3 and haven't had a chance to drop that other person off to help elsewhere. We try and minimize that efficiency piece there. But I would say 80% of the city is read with 3-person crews for those reasons.
We've never seen it in the past. So
Normally I read that area, and the guys are pretty mad at me in the last 2 months because I.
So you're the slow one?
I've been called worse, but yes. There's a lot of times I read it by myself.
What Terry said, so I thought I gotta keep it simple.
I got big shoulders. I'm okay with it.
Another thing that occurred last week, we met with County Commissioner Garris Ortiz on Friday. And I asked him about the garbage stuff going on where Pueblo County, or the people around Pueblo, are allowed to get a special dump days. They buy a permit at $10 and they can haul whatever they need to the dump. And I asked, how come this area doesn't get it? Because every time we go out, you know, out off Greenhorn or wherever, we keep seeing more and more trash. And he asked that if somebody could be a part of the trash task force, as he refers to it. So you'll probably get a call from him and asking and inquiring as to, is there somebody part of Metro that could participate in this trash task force with him? He said it's kind of like they do like monthly meetings. I don't, you know, we didn't have enough time sitting in Max's on Friday kind of going through what all they do, but the concern is that there's more and more trash being dumped out here. You know, and it doesn't look good. I mean, you might be having a housing boom, but it's the areas that it's going out to is getting worse. The final item that I have a question about as to what policies, I'll back up a step. I'm the coordinator for the Neighborhood Watch program. And after listening to Colorado Springs trying to now enforce their law on RVs that just sit on the streets, people are living on the streets in their RVs, that they're going to be moving them out. I foresee them heading south.
Yeah, they're moving out to here.
Pueblo and here. And as we've gone out riding in the rural areas, we are finding RV trailers being lived out of. My question is, what policies are in place to stop this?
Which, what we've done in the past, I know Donnie and I, if we've gotten a call, we've checked to see who the property owner is, where it's at. At that point, we'll go out and check and verify. We do, then we call the sheriff's department. Sheriff's department will usually join us and, okay, who are you? Get the identification. If it is a landowner, they're told, you know, you only have 7 days, that you can be here, otherwise, unless you're building or whatever, you can stay. But, from that point, if it isn't their property, whatever.
It's a very difficult situation. So there's a 7-day camping deal, and according to the state law and what the sheriff's department can enforce, all they gotta move after 7 days, if they move it a foot, 7-day clock starts over. So, as far as the Metro District is concerned, all we can enforce is covenants. So I just went through one recently, which is back over off of Camelot. A gentleman has written permission from the landowner to be there and has state paperwork for agricultural pieces, and the sheriff's department has vetted him 100% and all. In fact, I have case numbers and everything to pull that paperwork up, but there's nothing that we can do to force him off of it. We need to have a better partnership with the county, and maybe it's a conversation to have with Garrison Ortiz and some of the commissioners on where we can go forward with this and what authorities, the Metro District, the county, and Sheriff's Department involved can or cannot do. But it's pretty kind of muddled waters at this point. The Sheriff's Department, I don't think is necessarily trying to put it off, if they have legal permission, or if it is the landowner to be there, they can't evict them. They can't force them off of their property. Or they can't force, in this case, a tenant off of property if they have written permission. So as long as they're not, but they're still held to the covenants. They still need to keep the property tidy and clean, and trash, all that stuff needs to be dealt with. And then the difficulties of enforcing those, we still have a committee that we're still trying to form to do that, and an enforcement officer who becomes that piece. Those things we're still gonna work through. But your concerns are, I think, a lot of our concerns as well. But the days of going out, days of old of going out and confronting these people, I think the society and where we're at right now is probably not the safest thing for us to do. It's probably a lot worse than riding around on a tailgate. But we have.
It can be very dangerous for your health.
It could be. So, what I've done in the past by direction of the board, they've asked me not to go out and confront these people. Fortunately, I have a family member who is a deputy, so I pick up the phone. He may not like me as much anymore, but I have sent him out to a couple instances to investigate, and he has come back to me. One instance, people left. The other 2 instances, they have permission. One has permission to be there, and the other one is a landowner. So I think there's still some conversations to be had with the county and how and where we want to go with this. But right now, as far as the district is concerned, as long as they're not on Greenbelt, which is essentially the Metro District's property, we can ask them to leave. We can ask them to keep their place clean.
And even enforcing that's gonna be kind of.
Well, yeah, who do you find? What do you put a lien on? Those are your legal aspects of being able to enforce that. But until the committee's off and running, I can't even do that.
Which hopefully is sooner rather than later.
Yes.
So as far as, like, when I have the neighborhood watch meetings and
Mhm.
people are saying, okay, you know, there's homeless camps and whatnot,
So you can file a written complaint with Pueblo County, but it has to, I mean, it can come from us too, but if you guys have some research, and I don't wanna put in a complaint on somebody who has every right to be there, but if they're, you know, not living up to the covenant piece and keeping the property clean and then you have every right to make a complaint. And you can put those complaints to the Pueblo County, Department of Public Health and Regional Building, not Regional Building, Planning and Development, thank you. You can file a complaint with them, and then that would start the process rolling to where legal action could be taken.
Under Title 17.
I don't know if it's exact, I don't know what section it is, but yes.
so that type of a policy, can you perhaps put that into an article in the newspaper, Wally? It makes it easier, then people will understand the process of what they have to
Right.
do instead of,
No.
well, nobody does anything.
And then most people don't understand, actually, you and everybody else in this community can enforce the covenants without us getting this board together. You guys can do it in small claims court. That's kind of a pain, and it's $100 filing fee, but you can definitely do it.
I think your best bet is to start with, Department of Public Health and Regional Planning with your complaint department side.
I think the article idea is a good idea, but I'll talk to Wally's boss and see.
And by all means, if you see something out there, and whether we've been there before or not and spoken to them and vetted that, what is actually going on, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who do you call?
The main office.
Is that-
And
that's
then
some
he'll
of the
just give you my
biggest
phone
questions.
number, and then I give you the sheriff's department. It's just a big runaround.
Yeah, there is a runaround, but it's a case of people go, okay, I can call so-and-so and they don't do anything, and it's like, so what are you saying to do?
We're fairly aware of most of them out there, and we've probably gone through certain steps. So at least a phone call, and then we can say, hey, sheriff's department has visited them, have talked to them, or maybe they haven't. And I would rather have a conversation either with Jim or with you or whoever and say, yes, we are in the process of finding out what's going on here, or not, and I need to go find out where it is and what the situation, and maybe have the sheriff.
A lot of times when I do get a call like that, is I'll go check out first to see it myself before I even start that process of calling the sheriff's department and say, hey, have you had a complaint on this, and would you like help from us, and what do you need? So.
And the sheriff's department's been very responsive with it.
They usually are, you know, so that's it, but if you guys can handle with the trash task force.
Yeah, I'll get with Garrison and see.
Do you have his number?
Yep.
Okay,
Sure do.
thank you.
Thanks.
As for the sheriff department, they can't do anything on your camping. There's no need to even call them. The only people that can do anything for camping is Pueblo Planning and Development under Title 17. Camping is not allowed on any of the properties except for A properties, which A 3 and 4 will allow a recreational camp, and A 1 and 2 allows multiple camps. Pueblo Planning and Development will not act on a phone call. It has to be a written and signed complaint, or they will not touch it. So that's the only way to get anything done on camping. Covenants do not cover camping, so we can't touch it with 10-foot pole. So if it's actual camping, you're talking about RVs or something like that, it's strictly a Title 17 issue, and you could mail something in. I would not. They tend to get lost unless it's a return receipt. So if you walk into planning and development with a signed complaint, they will investigate, and it sets in motion a time frame. First thing they're going to do is determine who owns the property. then they're going to determine whether or not there's an issue there. If there's an issue, and that one little piece will take at least 2 weeks, sometimes a month. If there's an issue, they issue a letter to the property owner. Even if the person is supposed to be there or not, it goes to the property owner. Property owner is then given 30 days to correct. If they don't correct, they send them a second letter, which is usually 15 days. If they don't correct in that, then they set a court date, which is usually 6 months. Once you get a court date, the court then gives 30 days. After that 30 days, the complainant can go back and ask for a writ. And with a writ, you have to hire the sheriff's department to come in with you and a backhoe. That's another 30 days. And then once you get past that, you walk in with your backhoe and your writ and you bulldoze it. In the meantime, they picked up and moved.
Thank you. Alrighty, thank you, especially for actually, bringing up the thing about the trash. I think that's, sometimes they forget we're in the same county.
Well, that was one of the biggest things in the meeting. I said, you guys know where Pueblo West is, but you forget about we're in the rural just because of the distance. You forget about us.
It's not because of the distance, it's because there's 30,000 voters there in 2,000 here. Make no mistake about it, it's
True
the
enough.
voting base.
Well, the squeaky wheel syndrome, yes.
Exactly.
And yet he's been here 3 times since he came to office, and that's more than.
Anybody we've ever seen
Anybody
before.
else
Yeah,
I've ever seen. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Alright, agenda items. Thank you again, Cindy.
Nothing at this time.
Alright. At this time, pursuant to Article 24-6402, subparagraph 4, subparagraph B, CRS, to receive specific legal advice on specific legal questions concerning the former district manager and accounting for district funds and options for further investigation and or remedies. I need that exact motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to, move into executive session pursuant to, section 24-6-4024B CRS to receive specific legal advice on specific legal questions concerning the former district manager and accounting for the district funds and operations and further investigation and or remedies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned to the conclusion of the executive session.